So at this point, I'm going to move into a demonstration of how to use our ArcGIS Online tool. AGOL is an online portal that we use to view the collection system and various project maps. The district has been using AGOL internally to house the performance verification data that has been submitted for previous MCIP projects. You as the applicant submit your project performance verification plan via AGOL. So this is a very important step, and it is required at the time of application in order to be considered complete. We'll begin with the basic login process. You can reach the website at www.arcgis.com. Let's begin with accessing the ArcGIS website. You put in the web page, which is arcgis.com. This will bring us to the login page, so click sign in here. If you have an ArcGIS sign-in, then you can use your username and password here to log in. If you don't, or if you haven't logged in within the past 6 months, then you'll have to request a new one, which can be done by emailing gis@neorsd.org. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. This is the homepage for the NURSD ArcGIS Online platform. So at the top, you see that there's this ribbon of options of different tabs that you can use to navigate through. The important one that we want to highlight today is groups here. So if you click on groups, you will see all of these different project groups. Access to these is given on a project by project basis. On my account, obviously I have a lot because I work for the district, and so I have a lot of projects that I need access to. But I also have some community groups here. When you log in, you may only see that you have one community group and that's all you have. That's okay. If it is determined that you need more access, like for instance, if you want to access information from a specific LSSES project, then we can add you to those groups accordingly. You just have to make the request. And remember, having that LSSES data is helpful because sometimes you can use the field data for your performance verification data. For this demo, I'm going to do an example project as if we were doing a project at the Watershed Stewardship Center, which is in Parma. I would click on my community group here. Once it loads, I see that there is this Parma MCIP app. Now, it's important, some of these community groups, you'll have an app, sometimes you will have a map, and sometimes you will have both. For project verification, you want to make sure you are clicking on the app. This is based on the map that is created for your community, but it has some additional functionality that is important to being able to put in all the information that we need. So just make sure you're clicking on the right one. Once this loads, I'll come over to View Application. So now the community map is opening, and sometimes it takes a little bit to load, but eventually everything will be in here and you'll see all the collection systems. Sometimes you just have to zoom in a little bit further. I can already see some features starting to pop up. There's a collection system that just came up. Once you get in here, feel free to zoom around. You can look around your whole community and look at how the collection system is connected. All of this information is based on drawings that we have received from you, the community. So if you see something that isn't correct, you can send us the drawing and we can get that updated in the system through a map change request. So I'm going to navigate over here to the Watershed Stewardship Center on West Ridgewood Drive. But before we get started, let me click on this legend down here to just kind of go through what it is that we're seeing on this map. The map is made up of various layers. And if you click here, you can see all of the different layers that are available for this app. You can turn them on and off by just toggling these checkboxes. For instance, I know that these little stars here are septic system. If I didn't really want to see them, I could turn them off like that, turn them back on. There's a lot of information here that can be really helpful. For instance, the inventory of where all of our dry weather outfalls are, or where sampling data has indicated that there might be some high E. coli levels, things like that. So those can be helpful in determining where you want to do your project verification. So as you zoom and pan around, you may notice that some of these layers turn gray when you zoom out. That just means that it's not available at the scale that you're at, so if you zoom back in again, you will get that back. Let's navigate back down to the Watershed Stewardship Center. As I'm zooming and panning, I see all the collection system here. And when you click on any asset in the collection system, you'll get a box that pops up with all kinds of information about it. For example, when I clicked on this manhole, I can see the name, the manhole type, the flow, if it's storm or sanitary, what the trench type is, all this information about everything I could want to know about it. One other thing to note is you'll see that it says 1 of 4. Where I clicked, there's a lot of different assets that the system is thinking that maybe I want to look at by clicking at that point. So it just kind of collects the nearest ones and pulls them all together. You can scroll through by clicking on these little triangles here, the little arrows. So now you can see I'm looking at this pipe. And if I go again, I'm looking at this one. If you ever think that you're clicking on the right thing, can't quite see it, it could just be that it's been grouped together. So I'm going to go back to this manhole here because when I am putting in the information for my performance verification, I really want to focus on the name of this manhole. The data in AGOL is sourced from maps that we receive from the communities, and sometimes communities call the different assets different things than the way that it gets put into the AGOL. So it's important that when you're putting information in here, we're using the same language, the same vocabulary when we're talking about where things are going. This is how you would find the name for the manhole. This becomes important later for when I put a point there to show that I'm going to be doing some flow monitoring there. We'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, so going back over to my legend, I am ready to put in information about my project. So I'm going to click here on the edit button. One important thing to note is that when I'm in edit mode, I can't then click on the manholes and assets to get information about them. So just make sure that you've sourced all that information before you start editing, but if you do need to switch back, it's not a big deal. You just close out of edit mode and you can go back in, click around and get the information you need. All right, so back in edit mode again. The first step is to define the project area. So I'm going to do that by using this purple tool here. If I click on here, now I'm ready to start drawing in the map. Click on the map to place the vertices of a polygon to show the area. So let's say that I am going to be lining this pipe here. So I would just draw a big rectangle around my area, and when I'm done, I double click and it automatically closes it. Now I can put in information about the project name. I'm going to call this West Ridgewood Drive Lining Project, and you'll see that the community and application year are already pre-populated. If I had any attachments that I wanted to include, I could just choose File here and then browse through my folders to upload, but I don't have anything at the moment. Once I'm done putting it in, I just click this X and it's in there, easy as that. Going back over to my Edit tool, we have our flow monitoring, which is indicated with these little starburst icons. And then we also have water quality sampling points with the water droplets. 3 statuses for each. For flow monitoring, there's active, proposed, and removed. Active means there's currently a flow monitor in the ground, it's taking data. Proposed is where I think I'm going to be putting my flow monitoring. Removed means that the flow monitoring has already been completed. We have data for it. If I'm ever putting in a removed point, I should also be uploading that data. Similarly, with the water quality sampling, active means that I'm in the middle of my 3 separate events, taking those different samples. Proposed means I think I'm going to take a sample here. Completed means the 3 separate events are done. I have the data and I'm going to upload the data with this point. I'm going to put in a flow monitor, so I'm going to click proposed because I haven't done this yet. So let's say I want to put a flow monitor in this manhole here. I just hover over it, click on it there, and now I'm ready to put in all the information about that flow monitor. So we've got the West Ridgewood Lining Project, verification phase. I have not done this project yet, so it's going to be pre-construction. Now this is important because we're not only collecting data for proposals here, but we're going to be tracking performance verification for projects as they are awarded as well. The nice thing about this is that I can come back in later for post-construction verification and see where did I put those points, put them in again for post. I have the ability to keep that data nice and clean. You'll see down here some other fields such as equipment or date installed, which especially if it's a proposed point, you may not know that yet, so that's all right. But this manhole asset ID, this is the important one that we talked about earlier. Luckily, I know that asset ID because I was able to look it up earlier, so I'm just going to paste it in here. And then the location description is West Ridgewood downstream. Something simple like that, if you know that there's a landmark that it's nearby, especially for those water quality sampling points, that's really helpful to put in. I don't have any comments or attachments, but when I do finally do this flow monitoring and I have those Excel files with the 5-minute data, I am going to end up uploading it here by clicking Choose File, select through, upload the file, so all the data can be stored within AGOL. All right, so looks good for now. So I'm going to click this X here. Everything will be saved. The process for putting in a water quality sampling point is pretty similar. I'll just throw this one here. I know that that's not actually an outfall, but you can see it looks really similar to the flow monitoring dialog box as well. Similarly, this outfall ID, that's kind of like the manhole ID, you would want to click on the outfall based on the inventory that I showed how to access earlier. Highest sample result refers to the highest amount of E. coli tested out of those 3 events. And then other self-explanatory fields, again, you can add attachments here and you would just click the X to save. Although for this one, I'm not actually sampling there, so I am going to delete that point just to make it cleaner. Once I'm done, just exit out of edit mode and we're complete. So really, it was very simple, painless. I've got that information in. Now I can click that checkbox in my application to say that yes, I did put my data in for performance verification and we're good to go. Some final points before we wrap up. Construction applications are not considered complete until performance verification has been submitted in the AGOL. So if you have any construction element in your project, you must do this performance verification. I said earlier that design only does not need to complete this, but it is still helpful to think about where you would put your performance verification as you're going through your design, because when you come back for construction, you can put that information in and already have that thought through. And just being pretty frank here, there is a bit of a learning curve to the AGOL platform. So it's never too early to begin. Don't start too late. If you have any questions at all about GIS, you need to get access, you need to be added to a group, you are just having some technical difficulties, feel free to email gis@neorsd.org and someone will reach out to you to help you. We have a wonderful GIS team here at the district and they are extremely talented and very helpful, so we can get any problems solved for you. Similarly to our technical guidance document, we also have an AGOL instructions document. As you're going through the online application, you'll come to this performance verification section. And if you click over onto where it says AGOL instructions, there's a link there that it will prompt you to download a PDF that contains all the information about how to go through the steps that I just showed you. So that is there if you need it. One quick note, when you're accessing this link, you want to make sure that you right-click on it and select Save Link As, because otherwise we had some issues with the document opening up as a PDF in the same tab and interrupting the application process. I believe we've gotten that bug fixed, but just in case, it doesn't hurt to use this method to download the PDF. Once you've gone through the whole process to put in your verification points, you can then select that little checkbox that says AGOL completed and continue on your way with your application. If you're doing design only, just go ahead and click that as completed because it won't let you go forward since it is a required box.